So, have you ever been in a meeting where you really wanted to share your thoughts but felt held back by fear and anxiety? Have you found yourself the night before your speech or presentation in front of an audience, sweating and feeling anxious, replaying the event and feeling nervous even before it begins? Welcome to the Shaft Conversations. This is a podcast where we help young professionals sharpen their skills, unlock opportunities, and grow in their career and life. And today we have a very special session where we are joined by Jeremiah Sekyi, a communicator whose story is proof of how powerful learning to speak can be. Over the past decade, Jeremiah has gone from a young man who was on stage to someone who has spoken in more than 13 countries and built his career on communication, helping others to find their voice. And I think what's exciting about Jeremiah is that his journey wasn't about being born confident, but it was about learning, failing, trying again, and realizing that the ability to communicate can change everything. He believes communication is the bridge between talent and opportunity, and today he's here to show us how to start crossing that bridge. So keep your braces tight and join me on today's session. My name is Erasmus. Welcome, Jeremiah. Welcome to the podcast today. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Erasmus. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So I think just like I was sharing with you before this conversation or this interview, one of the things that really caught my eye was the challenge that you were running on social media, especially on LinkedIn, where you had a
Mhm.
specific challenge for yourself of 100 days to teach someone to communicate. And I just thought it was fascinating because I was following some of these lessons and I saw that these were real nuggets which you were sharing, which is quite transformational. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that and tell us a little bit about as to why you've taken up this challenge to yourself to try and teach people how to communicate?
Hmm. You see, I'm sure you are familiar with this experience that you often get these bursts of ideas, these bursts of inspiration from time to time that I feel so passionate about this. I want to take on this project and have these outcomes, but then it just remains a burst of inspiration, something that
Yes,
keeps you
yes.
awake at 1 a.m. And then you wake up in the morning, you have your breakfast, and you're like, let's go on and do
Mm,
business as usual. So, this has been something I've been mulling for years
wow.
to take on a project that would allow me to share the experience I have picked up along the way. But it just never became something tangible.
Mm,
So this time I told myself that, you know what? I've been thinking about this for years. I know what communication did for me. It
yes.
changed my life. I know where I'm coming from, and I know what being able to communicate has done for me. And if there is anything I want to do in the most immediate future, it is to share this experience and at least give others the tools to
Mm.
also use these tools to transform their lives.
No, that's amazing. I already get a very good feeling that this is going to be an exciting interview because this is also what we're saying. These are people who are
Mhm,
not just saying or just promising things, but they are also on their own journeys and they've seen how it's helped them and they are
mhm,
taking on the challenge for themselves. So I'm really excited about this. Just to set some context
mhm.
for our viewers, I want you to tell us a bit about yourself. Obviously, they know now that you are running a 100-day communication challenge, but why, who are you? How dare you even pick up this vision and try to run it? What have you done in the past that would inform or that would tell us that we need to listen to you for communication tips?
I know, right? The audacity to think I have something to share. It's really ballsy. But I would say that much of my life was not noteworthy growing up. And one thing about me, one thing that I like to talk about is that I was a very shy person. I made a mistake there. I wasn't a very shy person. I am a
Mm,
very shy person. Given the opportunity, I wouldn't interact with people. I am extremely introverted, and that is how I grew up. But somewhere in high school, I realized that I could not stay within my box. I had ideas and I had to speak out because somewhere down the line I began to write and I knew I was a good writer. In fact, this is a, a little secret, but The boys used to come to me to write their letters to them back in
Oh,
high school.
oh,
So
okay.
if you were in a Ghanaian girls' high school and you got a very strangely, beautifully worded letter from the person who was admiring you, and you know that this is not how this person writes, and the person was from Pesek, high chances I wrote that letter. You are welcome.
Small business
But
idea for
that
our
is
audience.
how, all right. My rate was very affordable too. Anyway, so that's where I realized that I had a way with words, but
Mm,
how to construct those words and then voice them out, that scared me.
mm,
But somewhere down the line, I think I was in second year. Second year, I remember this clearly. My hall prefect just walked into my room and he told me that I heard you're a good writer. We have a debate competition happening on Saturday and we
mm.
want you to stand for the house. And at that time, he had received the letter about a month prior.
Oh,
But
okay.
this guy just did nothing.
Oh, okay.
And he waited until just a weekend before and he said, Jeremiah, I want you to do this. I'm not taking no for an answer.
Wow.
I could have tried to rebel, I could have given excuses, but there was something. There's always that turning point.
Mm,
There's always the moments that you can give a million excuses, but then you just tell yourself, this is the time I have to say yes.
yeah.
And I said yes then. I practiced, I went to give a certain 2 by 4 speech. But as I was walking up onto the stage, Erasmus, my legs were trembling. I was
Physical
shaking. I
sensations.
tell you, the sensations, my palms were clammy, my legs were shaking, I was sweating. If not for
Wow.
the podium, everyone would have seen my legs like jelly. But I stood on that stage, I spoke, and when you are making impact with the words that you are
Yes.
given,
Yes.
Erasmus, you can
Yes.
see it in their eyes. Their eyes
Mm.
are shining,
You're
they
taking
are
it.
nodding their heads. And just that experience, knowing that I can think of something in my head and I
Mm,
can voice it out. And I can see that in real time, gears in people's minds are
mm,
changing. Their opinions are being transformed, and they are going to live there and it's going to influence their actions.
mm.
That power, it was like cocaine. I've never tried cocaine before, but it
But
has to be
you
better than
know, it has to
cocaine.
be this. Yeah.
It has to be. It has to be. And I mean, that's when I got hooked. And ever since then, I've just been in love with this ability to just
Mm,
commune with others, with the experience you
mm.
have, with your intentions, and to be able to infect others with your raw spirits. That
Yeah.
is why I've devoted my entire life to just spreading this gift, this power that we have as far as possible.
No, I absolutely love that. Yeah, I think it was just
Mm,
today that I was listening to someone who spoke about the power of speaking and then also of writing or journaling, and said
mm,
many people deal with their stress or their fears quite differently. And some do the drugs, some also decide to write, and some also decide to speak and
mhm,
express themselves. And how
mhm,
speaking and writing has a way of you being able to express emotions that otherwise you would have
mm,
never been able to express. So it quite fascinates me that for you, it was a breakout moment, especially in the way in which you felt about yourself. And I want us to go a little bit further into it to explore that emotion because you've already given us the context that you were a very shy kid. So I would understand that perhaps there was something that you were holding back. There was something that you were observing about your environment, which that day came out. Do you want to share a little bit of that with us to just help us understand the gap that picking something up like public speaking can fill for us?
Certainly. I mean, I was in Presec at the time, and
Yeah.
before I came into Presec, I was in a pretty much obscure basic
Mm.
school. And in that basic school, just because it was obscure,
Was
I
it
was the
in
shark
Accra?
of that school. It
Yeah.
was in Kaswa. It was
Oh,
in
okay.
Kaswa, yes. I would deny it for the rest of my life, if not for my vow to be honest, but yes, my basic school was in Kaswa.
Mm,
So it was quite obscure and I was doing very well in that environment. But then I went
mm.
to Presec. And Presec, it may not be the best school in Ghana, but it attracts some of the best minds in the
Top
country.
talent.
And so being in this new environment that for the first time in my life, felt like
Mm,
I wasn't good enough. I didn't belong.
mm,
That I didn't have the right to speak in the rooms that I was in because there were people who were smarter than me, who were
Mm,
more privileged than I was, and who probably belonged there more than I ever
mm,
thought I
yeah.
could be. So that's just, I was already shy, but that made me shut my voice down
Mm, mm,
even more. And so, even in class, it would be very difficult for me to raise my hand because there would be a constant voice in my head telling me, what do you know?
mm,
What do you have to say? There are people who have better things to say.
yeah.
So why should you be the one to speak? And that voice kept preventing me from taking opportunities. I wanted to take on leadership positions. I wanted to, I had
Mm,
so much in me that I felt I had to pour it out. But every time I was on the verge of stepping out to raise my hand to say, yes, I can do that, to say that, yes, I'm available, that voice would just shut me down by telling me the same old story, the same old story. And that
mm,
is how I not only had that shyness in me, but that
mm,
is how it became a bigger part of me. It held more power over me because of that environment. And I think many people do find themselves in those
yes.
environments. Either you've moved to a new school, or you're in your workplace, or there are people around you who are a lot louder. So you feel that just because they are occupying so much space, you have to shrink yourself and
Mm,
that you don't belong in that space. So that is an experience I had much earlier. And if I tell you today, that I have not felt that way again, I'd be lying to you
mm.
because that voice doesn't go. You just develop a, a strategy to respond to it and to shut it down, but it never goes.
No, it's so bang on because like I have a personal experience of this. Obviously,
Mm,
obviously, and we're going to come to this and talk about debate, right? But
yeah.
obviously, because of my background in debate and what I know I've done, I was quite confident in my power to communicate. And when I moved countries and I obviously began to work in a very very big institution, I felt intimidated. So I was going into
Mm,
meetings and I was very quiet. And in my mind, I was listening to some of
wow.
the ideas being shared, and no disrespect, but I was like, this is not beyond what I was already thinking. Like, that moment where
Mm-hmm,
you have the answer in your head and you'll be like, okay, this would be a good idea to say, and you just fight yourself before you realize someone said it and they're probably taking the plaudits. And I I
mm,
realized that I now had to confront the beast all over again. And what even hurt me so much was that I was not quite conscious that it was something I had to fight or force myself to develop. I
mm-hmm,
always just thought perhaps it was something that was quite natural to me. So I really like that you already share that you are in the position where you still have to confront some of these challenges then. So I want to understand for someone who has found themselves in or find themselves perhaps in a similar situation as you were, or maybe after so many years still find communication to be a huge challenge. What would you say you were picking from that moment? What were some of the mental models which you were using, some of the lessons which would help the individual to switch on from them wanting to suppress their voice to one of expression?
mm. The lessons are too many. The lessons are too many, I'll tell you. But the first thing that I realized quite young was that so many of the people around me, as much as I respected them,
Mm,
they didn't have that much power over me.
mm,
My presec school prefect, what could he do to me? The worst he could tell me was to go and read. And I mean, thank you for helping me build muscle. But that's literally the worst that they could ever do to you.
mm,
And I realized that in these low stakes environments, I could afford to make the most mistakes and
mm,
I could learn from those mistakes. So I realized then that in school, maybe your first job, make all of those mistakes
mm,
because those are just trial grounds.
mm,
And that alone made me less anxious because the fear of public speaking is a psychological phenomenon. It's literally just your fear of some consequence. And
mm,
once you rationalize the experience and convince yourself that this is the worst possible outcome
mm,
and it isn't really a big deal, you become slightly less desensitized
mm,
and then you continue to expose yourself to it. I would say embrace embarrassment because when you embrace those embarrassing situations and you realize that, okay, I failed, I fumbled, I'm still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened to me. Oh, my crush was in the audience, but she still smiled with me afterwards. Nothing bad happened. And you realize that this voice in my head has actually been lying to me. And that is the biggest thing you can do to confront your anxiety. Build a case against it, build precedents, create numerous examples of instances where you tried, maybe it didn't go so well, but nothing bad happened. You could still pick yourself up and try again. And the next time you hear that voice and it tells you that don't speak because the worst case scenario might happen, you have such a huge bank of evidence to say,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's not true. I've done it so many times and that didn't happen to me. So the first thing is build a case against that voice from
Mm-hmm.
continuous experience. Embarrass yourself so many times that you don't feel the embarrassment anymore. And the thing is that it may feel as though these experiences are not amounting to anything. Some learners grow in a geometric progression, some grow arithmetically, some grow in the reverse geometric progression. It's slow before it suddenly shoots up. I was the latter because,
Mm-hmm.
interestingly, most people do not know, but my first public speaking championship was a world championship. That was the
Oh.
first trophy I won in public speaking. I lost the one in my university. I
Mm.
lost the one at the national level. I lost the one at the African level.
Wow.
But then I won the global one. It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because it feels like there are different levels of validation. You probably were going on and on just thinking, okay, I'm probably not the greatest. And then you get to the biggest stage of all, and then now all of the validation pours in.
Yes, it's like Asante Kotoko losing
Oh, yeah,
the local Ghanaian competition and then going on to win the
yeah,
World Club Cup. That's how insane it
yeah,
sounds.
that's a
I
good
mean, no shade
analogy.
to Asante Kotoko, but that is what it felt like. But what I realized then was that no experience, no attempt is wasted. It all builds up. You may not see the results. You may not win your first pitch. You may
Mm,
not ace your first interview, but you are building an experience that would matter in the end.
mm,
And that is one thing that also helps you to not just build a case against your anxiety, but to
mm,
build a million simulations. One thing that I experience now is that there is no conversation that is new to me
mm,
because I've had a million conversations. So every conversation that I have now is just an adjustment of a previous one I've had before. I've
mm,
spoken so many
mm,
times. There's nothing you can ask me to do that I would not have a pre-canned response
mm,
to because of the wealth of experience I have built so far. So if you are young and you're a young professional, start speaking now. Start
mm.
building that experience. Start building that case against that voice because the more you do now, the easier it becomes in the future.
Mm. No, that's such an excellent response, and I think the part that really resonates with me is that
Mhm.
confidence is not because I think people usually have an idea of seeing confidence as gusto. It's a sense of you riling
Mm.
yourself up and challenging yourself in that moment to speak up. But I think you present a very different dynamic here. That it is a case of templating. It is a case of continuing to stack evidence of yourself overcoming a challenge and then relying on that evidence in crucial moments. And that's
Yeah.
what confidence is in the belief of the evidence rather than a magical riling up of yourself. And the
Yeah.
yeah, the other part also for me,
Mhm.
also because it connects to me personally also, right? Like this
Mhm.
podcast, obviously, we want to do the work. And I know there are a lot of people who start podcast and it's very easy to shelve it off and all, but I was quite interested in taking the lead in speaking consistently in front of the camera because I don't know, I just get
Mhm.
the good feeling. Like I go back, I watch my videos, I
Mhm.
cringe a bit, but more and more, I am seeing that it's getting better. I'm getting quite
Mhm.
better at communicating, and it gives me a lot more confidence when I go out in my day-to-day activities if I speak in a certain way, knowing that I'll have done this conversation a lot of times. I've interacted with so many different people. So I think that's a really, really excellent answer.
And to just pick up on what he just said, what you're doing, what you do, it's hard. I thought that speaking in public would be the same as recording videos. So when I began my 100-day challenge, I thought, I speak in public, it's going to
Yeah,
be fine. But there's no two forms of public speaking are the same. A
never.
prepared speech, an impromptu speech, and a recorded speech, they are also different. Because when you are recording,
Mm,
the experience is not just as the speaker, it's
mm,
also immediately afterwards as the observer. So you
yes.
become
Yeah.
so judgmental of yourself and you realize that you are making more mistakes than you would
Yeah.
when just talking to a random audience. And then you watch the video and like you said, you start to cringe. Oh my God, why did I
Yes.
do that
Yes.
expression? Why did I change my voice that way? Why did my voice break at that point? And you become just this antagonist of your
Mm,
own journey,
yes.
and then you have to learn to overcome that again and again and again. So the fact that you are recording long form videos alone, I salute you, Masa, because my short term experience these past few days with short form content, I realize it's a different ball game
No,
altogether.
no. I do realize, and I think
Mhm,
you're right. Like we become our worst critics, right? Which I think,
mhm,
frankly, perhaps is the biggest problem in communication and also with public speaking.
yeah,
We think so much worse of the outcomes than it really is, isn't it?
mhm. Yes, yes, and it really the worst thing that can happen isn't really that bad because
Mm,
one thing that I picked up early on was that the fear of public speaking is a very common one.
mm,
And we don't really distill what that means. Because according to research, 75% of people, I think 75% to 90, depending on where you are, have the fear of public speaking. But the thing is that when we are on stage, what we don't see is that the 75% are also
mm.
in the audience.
Yes,
We
yes.
think they are judging us, but what we should think is that 3 out of 4 people over there are saying in their mind, wow, he's doing that, she's
Mm,
doing that. I could
mm,
never.
mm.
Automatically, just that this person is trying alone, I respect them because I am afraid of doing that.
Yeah.
So, even though you are afraid, whenever you go on stage, you are a hero to 75% of people. That alone
That's
should make you more
that's really
confident.
powerful. All of a sudden I feel much, much better about myself now.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. I mean, so I want to pick it up from this confidence point here and
Hmm.
reconnect it back to the story you were telling us of your journey to becoming world champion. And just to lay the context here, Jeremiah is world public speaking champion. Full stop. And I remember this because I was also in Thailand where he was crowned within the World
Hmm.
University Debating Championships, and this is the number
Hmm.
one global debating championships for all universities across the world, featuring speakers from Oxford, Cambridge, from all over the world. And Jeremiah was within the public speaking competition and won gold, the first time ever done by any African participants, any African university, bringing it right to the country of Ghana. I don't want to say to University of Ghana because I think this one was for the entire um,
It
Ghanaians.
was, for sake of argument, it was.
I want you to talk us through the period where you found your confidence to be able to speak up for the very first time, the rush, the excitement, and the level of satisfaction that you got from it, to trying this over and over within local competitions where you weren't getting the results that perhaps you thought you would have wanted, and then finally winning the world championships. What was the process like? What do you think were some of the lessons, and what were some of the rewards also in there?
Hmm. I want to really highlight 3 things. The first one is that, like I mentioned earlier, the willingness to keep trying. I don't know where it came from, but there was some conviction in me that my failures weren't the end, that it was going to get better sometime along the line. And I had no real evidence to believe that, but I kept trying and trying and trying again. And one thing I did was that after every failure, I would up my training regimen.
Mm,
So after my first national competition, I didn't get to the semifinals or finals of the public speaking category. So I told myself that maybe it's because I don't know enough, because knowledge also plays a big role in allowing you to speak more confidently. You can only speak to the limits of what you know, unless the Dunning-Kruger effect is working on you and you're rather more confident because you know nothing. But yes, I realized that I need to know more so that I can speak more. So I began to learn a bit more. Then I went to another competition. I did not break through. So
Mm,
what I did was that I told myself that that was in Mexico. I went to Mexico in 2017 and I participated in the public speaking event and I got to the semifinals. That was great. That was wonderful.
mm,
But then I told myself that if I wanted to go further, I had to do more. So that entire year, I did every single public speaking event.
mm,
Number two, I told myself I would practice at least three impromptu speeches every single day for a year. And I
mm.
did it for 365 days unfailingly. Every single day, I took a set of impromptu speaking
Wow.
topics and I did them.
Every single day.
And it didn't sound every single day, it didn't sound like it was getting better down the line. Slowly, you could see some progress because sometimes progress is insignificant in the short term. It's like a curve. We know the earth is not flat, it's round, but you cannot see the curve when looking from the road. You can only see it when you take a step back and look at a larger plot of land. So I couldn't see the changes occurring day by day, week by week, month by month. We could see a little change occurring. Then I remember I did a national competition, there was no change. I upped my game. The African competition, not a big change. I increased my regimen to training about an hour every single day. So when I got to that event, and even at that event, I remember during the semifinals, I was with my friend Safo. Safo and I got to the semifinals, and we watched others give their speeches, and these were killers. These were killers.
Mm,
I
mm.
think, sincerely, I broke into the finals last. I may have broken into the finals last. But then what I believe made a difference was that I had exposed myself so many times that the finals was not new to me. It
Mm,
was very familiar with me. I was comfortable with tension. I was comfortable with novelty. I
mm.
was comfortable with trying new things. So when I stepped onto that stage, it was the scariest thing of my life. I hadn't spoken to a crowd more than 200 before, but there were over 1,000 people in that crowd. And it's truly, the video is out there. You can see that my face is straight. There's nothing there, but
Mm.
inside me, I was jelly. I
Boiling.
was jelly inside me. I was just boiling. But then I stepped onto the stage and I spoke. And initially, it was strange. It was like this terrifying feeling. But you see, there is this point in your speech where you get into your stride,
Yes. Yes.
where the high blood pressure and the anxiety starts to not just work against you, but to work
Works
for
for
you.
you. Okay.
And then you are speaking and speaking, and you realize I was born for this, I was
Mm,
made for this. And so the continuous practice also helped. But number two, always having a positive community around you. I'd be
mm,
lying if I said that the only voice I used to defeat my voice of anxiety was building a case and having an internal voice advocating for me. It was also having people who could override my own
mm,
voice and tell me, hey, Jeremiah, you can do this. I believe in you, because sometimes you need someone to take a chance on you. And I had my friend Safo Solomon, I had
mm,
my debate coaches supporting me along the line, telling me that I could do it. I had my public speaking mentors telling me that they could see something in me that I
mm,
didn't see myself. And
mm,
genuinely, I thought they were lying when they said they were seeing that thing in me. But then it was a combination of all of those forces that led me down that path. And in the end, as we can all see now it worked out, but nothing before that point gave any impression that it was going to work out then. And that is one thing that I want people to note, that the signs will not always be clear as you
Mhm.
are walking up to that particular goal. Nothing may indicate that you are going to make that win, but it is the drive and the efforts and the willingness to embarrass yourself. That is one thing that is so important to me. So many people are just unproductively self-conscious. Yes, you are going to be embarrassed. And so what? Who in the crowd cares? They have such short attention spans and they are going to forget anyway. You
Anyway.
mumble your words. Who on earth hasn't mumbled their words before? Who on earth hasn't made a mistake? I think we really underestimate
Mm.
the ability of others to forgive and to empathize, or even to notice our mistakes. Because sometimes you make a mistake and you go into the crowd and you be like, guys, this thing, I don't know where it came from. And they'll be
Yeah.
like, what?
What
I
I
didn't
didn't
even notice. And you were judging yourself. You were freaking out in the corner thinking, I had ruined my career, and
Mm.
no one even paid attention to that. Apparently, that is called the illusion of transparency. That
Mm.
when you are on stage, you think that you are completely exposed to the audience, but this TikTok generation, they aren't
Mm.
paying attention, my brother and sister. Trust me, you are good. You are good.
Which it is good news and it's bad news in and of itself. What they are not paying
Yeah.
attention to them. They will not see you. No, but I think it is very interesting because the one thing I also keep on picking up from your story is just the amount of positivity and the amount of um, self reflection that comes with the journey. And what I like in there is that constantly you were in a journey where you saw yourself consistently optimizing, consistently experimenting with what you were doing. And the key part for me then is when you spoke about the anxiety sort of like working for you instead of working against you. I think someone shared quite recently that people think successful people are people who have developed superhuman abilities. So not maybe not superhuman, but maybe abilities to overcome certain things. But most of the time, it is just your ability to go through them. So the average person
Mm,
feels fear, but someone like you who has done public speaking for so long, perhaps feel the fear, but you are able to work regardless of the fear. And I think it counts the same for a lot of different conditions, a lot of different things. Where people who pass the interview, it's not that they never felt the fear, they probably felt it, but it's just your ability to withstand it that makes the difference. And it's not necessarily a positive skill that you've developed to be able to um, make all of these things go away or whatnot. So I think it's very interesting that you note that it's just the environment that you need to learn to navigate, just like water. And then when you learn how to swim, you're always going to be an excellent swimmer. And the same water which is drowning someone, perhaps, is keeping you afloat.
so profound. Yes. And on the fear that you mentioned, one thing I've realized is that fear isn't your enemy per se if you
Mm,
know how to weaponize it. Because the truth is, what are you really afraid of? Choose
mm,
what you're afraid of. Are you more afraid of living a life of regret where you never took any chance on yourself, you
mm.
never fulfilled anything? Or are you afraid of that momentary possibility
Yeah.
of temporary embarrassment? For me, I am much more afraid of ending my life in regrets. That is
Yes.
the fear that keeps me going. And when you realize that there are much bigger fears than the one that you experience in the moment, it will keep you in check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's really wonderful. I want to from this point, I want to talk a bit more about your work. Uh, for as long as I've known you, you were a pharmacy student, and I think you allude to this in a lot of your
Mm.
write-ups that you studied pharmacy, which for people who do not know, is a very very hard course, very very hard. Um, and you studied this for 6 years, but today you are a public speaking coach. What happened? Why did you choose to make this transition from reading something as pharmacy? I don't know if you still practice or perhaps what's not. And why did you choose to make this transition? And what have you been doing? What has the work looked like within your space? What can you tell us about the career of public speaking and picking it up also as a profession?
I never had anything against pharmacy, honestly. It just wasn't for
Proceeds to have
me.
a lot of
And
things
the truth,
against pharmacy.
I never did. It's a beautiful profession. Many of us wouldn't be alive if not for the devotion of pharmaceutical scientists and community pharmacists and all of them. So I respect the field immensely. But for me, it was always a field that I could do okay in,
Mm, mm,
because there is always something that you can endure and there is something that you can thrive in.
mm,
Pharmacy was always something that I felt I could do enough to pass through, but my heart was not in it and I wasn't built for it. So when that alignment of your passion and your ability isn't in that field, I personally, perhaps maybe I had the privilege to
mm.
experiment because I had very understanding parents, or maybe public speaking helped me persuade them to
Yeah.
understand me more. But I remember that I had to convince them that I you spent a lot of money pushing me through pharmacy school. And in pharmacy school, I discovered this wonderful extracurricular activity that I felt so drawn to, that I believe taught me more than anything I learned in class. And so I want to devote myself to it. So I remember in 2020, I remember I had a conversation with my mom because
Mm,
she was like, I want you to take this pharmacy thing more seriously. And I told her this. I said, you know what? Give me 1 year. If this communication, public speaking thing doesn't work out, if it doesn't work out,
mm,
I'll do everything you are telling me to do.
mm,
But I believe in this so much that I'm telling you, just give me 1 year. Let me try things my way. Let me give this a chance. Let me do it so that I don't live the rest of my life in regrets, not
mm,
knowing what could have been here. So just give me 1 year. Let me try this. It didn't take 1 year, it took a
mm,
few months. And I landed my first job in the field of communications. And then I began this wonderful journey that has been a non-stop thrill and taking me to, like you mentioned, 13 countries, different events. And sometimes it just felt so surreal because in 2022, I was on the panel with one of the cabinet ministers in the UK. And then, and additionally, we had the brother of Boris Johnson on the panel as well. And I was having a conversation with this man, and he kept mentioning how impressed he was by the ideas that I was sharing there. And it took me a while to realize that this actually happened. Just last year, I went to speak at the Gulf Cooperation Council event. And in that room, on that same stage, we had one of the princes of the Middle East also deliver a presentation there, and we were on the same panel. And I know where I come from, not from Kaswa. Kaswa is better. I mean, I grew up, I grew up in Nima. That's where I came from. And so I just look at that and I compare and contrast the two. I know where I came from, and I look at all the people around me. They don't know where the Nima Gata is. They never had to walk beside it on their way to school. But over here, we are the same. I get 5 minutes to talk, you get 5 minutes to talk, and the audience clapped louder when it was my turn. Look at that. So surreal.
that's insane. And I, I just don't know what that feels like, but it must feel so vindicative, especially when you sat down to make the decision. Because I think most of the time in our adult life we are confronted with big decisions, and you have to make them. And we forget that there are lots of people who make decisions and they go to regret them. But when you make a big decision and then it breaks out and you see the reward, it must so fulfilling, so fulfilling.
It is. It is. And it wasn't just a decision that I took that I am going to try this. I clearly put in the work.
Mm.
After I took that decision and I told someone to hold me accountable for that, I knew that. I don't want to do
You didn't go
pharmacy,
and
but I've
sleep.
promised that I'm going. I didn't go and sleep. During the COVID period, I practiced every single day. I took about 12 Coursera courses. I
Mm,
learned about
mm,
3 to 4 hours every single day during the lockdown period because that was the only time I could get to continue to build myself. And
yes.
today, even till today, I listen to at least 3 hours worth of information
Hmm.
every single day, whether it is news, whether it is theories, philosophies. I listen to that at least 3 hours every single day just to keep myself at maintenance level because I know that I need to make this road worth it. And
Hmm.
people are going to pay to see, people are going to consult my services. People are going to come to me to tell me that they want someone to help them on their journey. And at least for their sake, I want them to come to meet someone who is worthy of their time, their resources. And that is a sense of responsibility that I think many people should have. Because I hear from some people that, okay, I applied to 100 jobs, none of them picked me. And I'm really hoping that one of them will give me a chance. And I'm saying, and I look at the person. What have you done? I don't care that you couldn't afford to go to the best university in Ghana, University of Ghana, of course. Maybe you had to go to Tech because of some great misfortune. You had to go to K University. But I don't care that that happened to you. What did you do about it? And so in that period, why are you prioritizing your need over the need of the employer as well? And I think for many professionals, they don't have that empathy for that employer and those clients who also need the best person.
Yes.
So, are you saying that your needs are far more important than the needs of the employer, your future colleagues, and the clients that they are servicing? So, we often have this need blindness that we are so
Mm.
consumed by need. And I've been there. I talk about this feeling because I've been there. Till date, I tell you, I've applied to no less than 500 jobs. Oh,
Hmm.
trust me, we are sorry to inform you, I can recite it from my head. We regret to inform you. We had a competitive pool. I'm like, this pool, where is this pool? I don't even know how to swim, but why am I always not in this pool? And I don't know why. I know that response by heart. I've received this so many times. So I know how it feels to want something so desperately and to hear a million no's and you are wondering why.
Hmm.
Because I think from our perspective, we are like, I need this job. If I get this remote job, if I get this international job, it will really help my family. I need it more than everyone applying for this. So why don't I get it? I'm willing to learn on the job. But oh, I have employed a few people in the past couple of years, and
Yeah.
trust me, it doesn't feel the same the other way around. No one is interested in taking a bet on someone who has not proven in any way that they can do the
Mm.
job because everyone has their needs.
Yeah.
Everyone has what they are looking out for. And so if you want to get into that space, you need to ensure that you would be fulfilling needs as well in exchange of your needs being fulfilled. Because one thing that I think about whenever I want a job and I'm hoping for it, I'm praying for it, one thing I think about is that what about the thousands of clients who
Mm.
also need the best service? Imagine they give the iPhone designer
Mhm.
role to just someone who needed the money the most. Clearly, this person may have had severe needs. Maybe their parents were sick, very understandable, and then that salary would have solved everything beautiful.
Mm.
But trust me, we would have been having this call and the screen would have just gone off and the entire podcast would be off because this person, despite their good intentions, despite the fact that they need the money, they
Just.
weren't who we needed.
Mhm.
So, in as much as you need to be in that room, become the person that that room also needs.
No, this is a gem. This is incredible. And for me, I really do hope people get to listen to this episode and they get to listen up to minute 4 and really hear this because I think you hit the nail on its head and it's actually incredible that even at your level you still put in massive amounts of hours just, and you call it maintain. This is just to maintain. It's not even over the top. This is to maintain. But I think the perspective that you share are various needs and how this world is just built like that. It's needs, and the money will chase value all the time. So the best
Yeah.
investment you can make is one in terms of upgrading to have value. And I wish it's something that a lot of young people would hear. I had it was I had someone come up to me and they said they attended an interview, and when they were asked if they could, they said, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to learn on the job. And I was like, why did you tell them you would learn? He said, I'll learn. I'm a hard worker. I'm like, do you know how hard workers they are? Learner. Do you know how
Hmm.
many fast learners they are?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean the role that you have in the institution that you have, I can imagine if you were not skilled enough to do the job, imagine the funds that will be at stake. Imagine
Yeah,
the millions of pounds or dollars that are going to be
yeah,
at stake just because they hired a fast learner, a hard
yeah,
worker.
fast learner.
And yes, we don't think about the things at stake. Oh God.
Yeah, no, so I think it's an incredible perspective to have. When I was and like you said, it's always when it's on the balance. I find myself more motivated when it's connected to things that I deeply value. So family, my well,
Mm,
mostly family, and just my ability to change that situation. I find out that I can be a man sometimes, quote unquote.
mm,
And but when I was applying for this job, which obviously is in a different country, obviously I had no experience. I tell people that for 3 nights sleeping in my office back in KNUST because I had no idea what banking is. But whatever they are putting here, there's no way that they are going to ask me a question about this and I can't answer. I can't be sitting 1 week away from now saying I don't understand what operations is or I don't understand what an bank is. I have to understand. And I don't just have to understand, I have to understand to convince them that I know so much about it. So within a week and those last 3 days, I always remember I slept in the office and just reading,
mm,
watching videos multiple times. Just and I was like, it's 30 minutes this person is speaking with me. They can't ask me more than 5 questions. So I just need to be lucky and get 3 or 4 out of those correct. And it's my ticket to the other side. I can't waste it. And like you said, when you put that pressure on yourself in that moment, it's amazing. It's amazing the
mhm,
things that you can do. And obviously,
mm.
we can already see the amazing things that you're doing. What what I
Wow.
wanted to touch on next because the way I also hear you talk about speaking and all of the tips that you've shared, you've not even said go and read 6 steps or to do this, or you've not even given one phrase that we should be mentioning before we start our speeches. You seem to go deeper into the psychology of the person and try and work out or unwork some of the things which are hindering their ability. And I'm curious as to if you have stories of people. Of course, you don't need to divulge all of their personal details, but as much as possible, give us a very good picture of how you've been able to help some of these clients, some of the transformations which you've seen, which will serve as very good examples for our audience if they are trying to pursue the art of speaking.
Hmm. When it comes to public speaking and my coaching approach, like you mentioned, it is really about what exactly for you to do because
Mm,
communication is heavily contextual. That's number one. Communication, two, is constantly evolving. Personally,
mm,
I love the rule of threes. I love it in the morning, I love it in the
mm.
afternoon, I love it in the evening. That is how
Yeah,
much I love the rule of threes. But recently, people are saying that using the rule of threes is an indicator that it is AI generated. And I'm thinking, in this case, if I'm in an environment where maybe I'm writing something and I cannot be in the room to defend myself if they ask me if it is AI generated, it would be safer for me to just not use the rule of threes in that
Yeah.
regard. And this has been my tool. So I cannot just tell you use the rule of threes or begin with a rhetorical
Mm,
question or end with a thought-provoking statement. No, it's about putting you in the frame of mind that you can allow your own authentic voice to come through. So a number of people that I've worked with. So recently, I started working with one uh, CEO. She built a company in the US, moved to Ghana, and she wanted to become a better communicator.
mm,
And we had a number of sessions together. We had about 3 months planned. And
mm.
when we finished, she told me that, Jeremiah, I think I need this for life. So up until today, we still have a session every single week. And what I do is that I make her send a video every single day, Monday to
Wow.
Sunday. She sends me a 1 to 2 minute video, and I send feedback to her. These are the ideas you expressed. I want you to pause, take your time, do this. I want you
Mm,
to be more authentic. I want you to look into the camera more, smile more, all of these basic steps. But then it's not
mm,
about the feedback I am giving her. What I am sure she has found out by now is that the goal is never to get feedback, but it's to
mm.
continue to try and put yourself out there every single day. Because if you are just minimally exposed, you know what good communication looks like. So when you do it and
Yeah.
you watch yourself, you know that no, this isn't the best it can be. So it is just getting an accountability system to ensure that you are constantly working on
Mm,
it. So that is my first approach as well. And secondly, whenever it comes to specific projects, I like to personally be involved with them. So
mhm,
recently, I had a client here in China, and she was going for a board meeting. She's
mhm,
one of the
mhm,
clients that when she approached me to talk, I didn't know who I was talking to.
mm.
So I just said, oh, let's just do this here and there, here and there, here and there. And not only did I find out later that this woman owns about 4 companies over here, and I
Wow.
was like, Erasmus.
Wow. What?
Nah, I should have really prized well if I knew this. No, 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 no. I had no idea. I had no idea, but that's just by
Let's
the
go back.
way.
Let's go back.
Let's go back. Let's go back. I didn't know I was speaking to a titan. So this woman goes for a meeting, and before the meeting she reaches out to me that she wants to have a number of sessions, and we work on how to communicate, how to be firm, how to be assertive, how to communicate beyond just using your words. This woman goes for the board meeting, and well, let's just say that you better watch out for this woman's AI
Yeah.
company because it
Wow.
is growing in market share in China and globally around the world. And it was because in that meeting, she was able to persuade the other shareholders. She was able to
Mm,
negotiate, and now she's leading with the highest percentage of shares in that company at the moment
wow.
now. And she, in our next meeting, was beaming with smiles because it wasn't that I taught her anything new. But when it comes to coaching, when it comes to supporting someone to communicate, you first need to identify what their authentic voices, what are
Mm,
their objectives, because you cannot take everyone down a specific route.
yes.
I love to be creative. I love to use wits and puns and circle back when I'm speaking. But for someone else, they would want to be more formal. They are more jovial. So then they are looking for a way to just put their personality in a more rigid box. So it's
Yeah.
identifying who the person is. And even as you are trying to take your own journey, you need to identify who you are and the path that is best for you. Because for me, no one mentee or trainee is the same. Everyone has a specific path for them. And so for my first few meetings, it really sounds like we are just vibing. I'll ask you, oh, where did
Yeah.
you go to school? How is everything?
Yeah.
We'll be talking and chatting and everything. And then 1 week later, the real work starts. The videos every single day, the tough feedback, the requests, the meetings where we practice over and over and over and over again. And one thing that I ensure that I do is that I am the voice that's constantly fighting against that voice in your head telling you that you can't do it. Because sometimes, occasionally, I'll just send a voice note, hey, I've seen that you're doing well just
Mm,
these past few days, the feedback has been a bit tough, but I want you to know that it's because I want you to get there. And one thing that I always say is that I would never take a project that I believe I cannot do. And for the
Mm,
most part, I don't think even anyone is incapable of becoming a good communicator. When I was in
mm,
Presec, my house music director deemed me incapable of learning how to sing. And Erasmus, I volunteered to be part of the house choir. But this man, and I remember his words till today, he told me that Jeremiah, let's leave him behind. Jeremiah's voice is untrainable. And that is
yeah,
how I never learned to sing. And I joke about it. But those words are the reason why I never tried to learn how to sing or
yeah.
to train my voice or to even volunteer in any choir, in any musical group, because I was told by this person who was much more ahead of me that I
Mm,
could never get where he was. So, as a coach, I really acknowledge how your perceptions, your words are important in shaping people's destinies. And so, even personally, if you are on your own journey, always be that positive voice to yourself because there's already so
mm,
much negativity around. Be the person who always encourages yourself and have a drive and a will to achieve. Because when it comes to communication or any project, there would always be uncertainty down the way. And so you learn, you practice, you go over and over again, and you strive for perfection.
mm,
Because once you're able to master a skill like communication, it doesn't really matter what you know how to do. Erasmus,
mm,
I've worked with, I was a fellow at the IMF. I've worked with a pharmaceutical company here in China as
mm,
a consultant, as a teacher, as what a researcher. There's really nothing that I have not done yet.
mm.
Maybe engineering. I'm yet to try engineering and law. But there's no field that has been too difficult, too foreign for
Mhm,
me. And that is because I devoted myself to ensuring that there is nothing I cannot talk about. And when you can communicate about something, you are at least halfway to actually doing it. I don't do
mm,
good graphic design, but I learned about the concept of graphic design. I can talk about design. I can describe
mm.
how it looks like to you. You would think that if you put me on Canva or Photoshop, I'm going to give you
You know what
something
to
wild.
do.
But it's just those basic things. But the
Yeah.
ability to communicate about it, because communication is literally the fundamental human experience. Everything we
Mm,
do is communicating. Even your brain cells, they are communicating
mm,
with your nerves and neurons around your body. Communication is the singular advanced thing that we do as human beings, aside our hearts beating and our lungs pumping air.
mm,
That is the most advanced and fundamental thing that we do as
mm,
human beings. So, if you learn how to communicate, you are putting yourself in a position where you cannot be defeated. Because most people think that I don't need to know how to talk in public. I don't need to know how to communicate.
mm.
I'm an engineer. Well, congratulations to you. You are going to remain a base level engineer because the person who is going to be promoted to a head of engineering departments is the one who can communicate those technicalities
Yeah.
to the CEO who has no
No.
experience in engineering. So no matter what you are doing, you are a doctor, you are an engineer, you are a lawyer, if you want to reach the height of your field, you need to know how to communicate because communication is what distinguishes managers from leaders
Mhm.
who rise to the top.
No, this people should pay to watch this episode. I'm going to put a paywall on this particular episode. I'll be that arrogant about it. I'll be that arrogant. I listened to an interview quite recently. I don't know if you how much you know about football, but one of the best strikers in the Premier League
Nothing,
called.
nothing at all, nothing at all.
So yeah, because we run sports, we always like to pick the analogy.
Yeah.
He's the best striker. He scores a ridiculous amount of goals in football. It's not likely that you have the same amount of goals as the same amount of matches you've played, but it's one of the few. And asked him what
Mhm.
makes him one of the best. And what he said was, how do you get the knack to score goals? How always finding the right place, the right time? it's nothing special. It's about who has the ball, right? So
Mm,
when someone has the ball, and I understand how they play. I understand how they want me to move because everyone has their own specific skill set and
mm,
abilities, and I am able to always alter myself situationally fit all of those people. So I maximize their um efforts, or I maximize their characteristics. It's almost connected
mm,
with me because it linked to something that I believed in, that within a team, no one has to do the same things at once. Like you don't have a project group. I don't know if you guys did it for your thesis. You have a group, and then there are some group leaders
mm.
demand that everybody bring 50 words. Everybody bring 50 words. Write chapter one, write chapter two, you write chapter three, you were chapter four, and
Mm,
and it worked. I was the kind of project leader who would be like, you, every time we come here, you are responsible for buying us drinks. Yeah,
mhm,
you
mhm,
write for us because you love writing, you love doing the research, you do the designs for us, you speak for us. That is what they love to do when you are fitting them in. And
mhm,
uh, the reason I'm saying
mm,
all of this is to tie back into what you're about communication, because this has been my exact experience within the organization. That's the difference between the directors, those who are sitting at the top, and those below. They can talk, they can face the fire, because most experts,
mm,
no matter how much they know the thing, because of the fear which they have of speaking out in public, it minimizes the ability to interact with
mhm,
what is being shared and to explain what they've been doing. So I see people who have done the work, and then we go on the call, and they are acting like they never touched us. They've spent 2 weeks working on it, and gradually over time, those that I've seen give,
mm,
even for myself, the only way I've got opportunity is by stepping up to pick up the work and explain it. That's all, not by being
mhm,
more talented than the other. So
mm,
this is everything. What you just said over there, like
mm.
someone can take it to the bank. I don't care, but someone can just this up. And if they take what you are saying, I think their lives will change. I think their lives will change. So
And that would be wonderful to hear.
I'm really looking forward to it. We are looking to wrap up this episode. Like obviously, like the conversation has been so enjoyable, like almost even lost track of the time. But we like to usually close with some quick fire questions, right? I ask you quickly answer. You can give me a short reason why that is so, and we can use that to close the episode. So my very first question to you is, um what's been one of the best books that you've read? And this is a question also because I know for speakers and writers, you can almost never have a best book. So all to you.
Oh, it puts me in a tough situation. But if I had to choose between The Clothes of Nakedness, The Clothes
Mm,
of Nakedness by Benjamin Kwachi. And interestingly, I reached
mm.
out to him on LinkedIn and he
Ooh,
graciously invited me to meet with him whenever we
wow.
happen to be in the same city. And that is incredible. I don't know if you've read that book, The Clothes of Nakedness by
No,
Benjamin
I've not.
Kwachi,
No.
but it is such a stellar book. I would say I place it right around the vicinity of Things Fall Apart because of how impactful and genuinely intriguing that book is. That book's perspective on capitalism, peer pressure, social
Mm,
influences, and the way the writer communicates.
mm,
My
mm.
when I have a talk with that man, I hope I can come here back
Yes,
here to
yes,
share with you what I
please,
learned
please,
because
please.
that book is stellar.
I'll make a note. I'll make a note of it too. But great, great, good answer so far. You're doing very well. Second question: what has been what would you say is your most favorite, or has been one of your most moving public speeches given by a public personality ever? Mm.
There are so many. This is
I
such a
know, I know.
tortuous.
It feels like it's no questions, but I know what I'm doing.
Hmm. I would say it was the broadcast that Jon Stewart made
Hmm.
right after 9/11.
Hmm.
That speech that he gave on TV was the perfect balance because sometimes communicators have impossible jobs to do. You are supposed to do this and that and that. And in that speech, he was a late night comedy talk show host. But in that speech, he was supposed to be funny. He was supposed to be empathetic. He was supposed to be grieving. He was supposed to inspire. He was supposed to do all of these things. And in a single monologue, this man was able to deliver all of that to help people find joy and hope even in the darkest times. And to me, that is the most powerful thing a public speaker can do, to not just communicate information, but to have something in you called hope, called drive, called feeling, and to literally infect millions of people around the world simultaneously with that particular infection. And that for me is one of the most impactful speeches I've ever heard.
No, that's a great answer. That's definitely is also bookmarked for for the quite surprising choice because I know there are some big hitters in there, and there's probably a list in your mind, and you have to skip
Oh
some people.
yes.
Probably Martin Luther King is getting offended over there. It's like this guy did not.
My apologies, senior man.
Anyway, last question: if there was one thing you wanted to leave our young audience with, there's a young man, young woman watching right now. There's one thing that you leave them with that if they go and do, if they take and they follow and they go and do in a week, they'll see a change in their lives. What would it be?
I'm afraid it's going to be seen as cliche, but one thing I've realized is that cliches are so enduring because they are eternal truths. And the
Mm,
one thing that I'm going to share is what I've been talking about consistently. That fear of embarrassment, that fear of failure, that hesitation, that inertia that you feel when you want to try something, you must do everything to break free from that,
mm,
because youth is one of the most beautiful gifts that we have, to try and to fail as many times as possible. And we call it failure, we call it something, no matter what you call it,
mm,
setback, whatever, you are still building meaningful experience. There's this joke in Avengers Infinity War where Loki says that I have experience on Earth, and Thanos says that you consider failure experience. And it's supposed to be this witty thing and all that, but it really is experience, no matter what you endure.
mm,
Some people I know, they have begun startups, but I knew when they were pitching for Halt Prize back in
mm,
the university, they didn't even get past the university level. But right now, they are running huge multinational startups.
mm,
See, the path to success is littered with countless silent failures. No one will see those failures. They would only see you at the top, at the peak, shining. But when you look back, you see the corpses of your past selves that died so many times along the way, and you literally climbed those corpses
mm.
up onto the very top. So I'll say that be so willing, be excited when you fail, because at the very least, it's making you angry, it's making you sad, it's making you afraid, and all of those feelings, bottle them up and transform them into drive to take that next step forward.
Wow. I think this is the perfect note. This is the perfect note to end this episode on. I really, like I said, I hope every young person takes this and goes to the bank with it. And hopefully by the end of the day, they would begin to see some of these changes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeremiah. This has been an incredible conversation. I myself have learned so much, and I'm really, really looking forward to um, hearing more from you, seeing you do more, and obviously, like anyone who wants to get into Jeremiah also. Forgive me. We give people the chance to be able to also sell themselves. I would not want to do it for you at this point. So if someone wants to contact you, wants to um, learn about public speaking, wants to grow their confidence, how do they reach out to you?
They can easily find me on LinkedIn. You search Jeremiah Sekyi, and if you see lots of videos and 100 communication tips, 100 days of communication
Mhm.
tips, that's me. So all I want from people at this stage is just to join the journey. Keep watching those tips. I'm committed to delivering all of those 100 tips by the end of the year. And I know that if someone watches at least half or commits to watching all of those, by the end of the year, they are going to be a much more powerful communicator. It is my entire experience condensed in 100 tips. And if you are inspired by those tips, you want to have a conversation on how you can specifically and more directly engage me in supporting you in your journey, feel free. My DMs are literally open. I find a lot of pleasure in speaking to people. And once I see that passion, it's like you see your past self.
Mm.
Once you see
Oh,
someone talking
yes.
to you and they say, I want to be a better speaker, it's like you're thrown back 10 years ago and you see that inside this person is that same thing that was in me 10 years ago,
Mm.
and know where that thing leads. So I'm happy to talk about communication and public speaking. Reach out and join the 100 days, 100 tips journey.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. And thank you, listeners, for staying with us till the end of this episode. As usual, it's the Shaft Conversations, and we're always here to bless you with more episodes. But please, would always like to ask for your support. So if you love this episode, give it a thumbs up. There is a hype button, which is on for anyone who has YouTube right now. So click on the hype button, leave a comment. Let's hear your thoughts. Please subscribe. And thank you all, and see you on the next conversation. Bye bye.